Just imagine sijarecord kitu.
Have a nice day.
Mr. Hello. Hello.
maliza class bwana.
Sostin, wewe maliza class. Tumekusupport, maliza class.
Imagine nilisahau kurecord.
Haki ya Mungu, uko na ubwaki ni mimi siwezi ingia tena.
Ulikuwa unatumia rekoda gani?
Kwa nini
Streamlab
unatumia
ya.
PowerPoint?
Imejire huko Finya. Hebu angalia maybe sometime it
Nimeangalia
fix automatic.
nilifinya kumbe ni faili kataa.
Kwani huku record? Sasa unataka tena turudi tena class yako?
Si record
just check kwa video.
Mimi nimeleft, bye.
Check kwa videos you will find it there.
Yes.
Wewe Sostin usitoke.
Wewe anzisha tuanza fresh.
Tuanzishe.
Yeah.
Yes, now first objectives as we've said. By the end of the lesson.
Kuna nyana ngoja kwa lobby. Kuna nyana ngoja kwa lobby.
Okay, we are going to look at constructors and the definition of a constructor. This is a special method that is automatically called when an object of a class is created. And that is below there, that is an example of a constructor. Its syntax. We have a hash include using namespace. You see, we have a class and my class as a name, the name of the class, and a constructor also. The name of a constructor resembles the class name. Now, that is basically what we are going to do much in our next class where we meet face to face, since we can't do practical here. Otherwise, I have just an overview. As we continue, constructors can also take parameters. Like, for example, if it is an area, you can include parameters like pi, you can include parameters like radius, perimeter, b, length, and width, and breadth. Yeah, which can be useful for setting initial values for attributes. We can say the following class have brand, model, and year attributes. That is being an example of the class. You see, we have a class called a car, and in the class we have a declaration of attributes like brand, model, and year. And within a constructor with parameters, now we've included car, string x, string y, and int z. Those are the parameters of our car. And so those are the outputs. We really not going to look much into that as per now, because we are limited on interactions. We can go forth and look at the types of constructors. First, we have default constructors, with they are generated automatically. A blank constructor when you create a class or an object. And the second one, we have a parameterized constructor, which are known as which are created or allows us to pass arguments while object creation. Let's see how they look. The parameterized. Let's say a class name is xy, and you can see that is an example of a constructor. We have xyz, and it has, now we've called the xyz as an object. That is an example of a program. We're really not going to look much into it, as I've said for now. So your questions about the program, you can keep it for the next class. We can move down and continue looking at, now let's see what is a destructor. A destructor is a special member of function that works just opposite to a constructor. For example, anything as depending on the word itself, destructor, actually it is a destruction. It can be used to delete, cut, or remove and a program. And destructors, they can be created when the program finishes to execute, or when a scope of parameters containing local variables end, and also if or when you delete the operator, That is an example of a destructor. We'll look much into it in our next lesson. We have some destructor rules. And rule number 1, when coming up with a destructor, ensure that the name begin with tilde sign and must match the class name. There cannot be more than one destructor in a class. Unlike constructors, we can have parameters. Destructors do not allow any parameters. Then fourth one, they do not have any return type, just like constructors. And the last one is when you do not specify any destructor in a class, compiler generates a default destructor and inserts it into your code. That is why when you finished with return 0 and you've ended with that curly brackets, the program terminates itself. Yeah, now that is a little bit about constructors and destructors. And I really hope when we meet in the next class, we are going to look much into more of it on how to write a program, embedding a destructor, embedding a constructor, and interact with it more. Otherwise, class rep, ensure you have my attendance list and bring forward it. In the next class, I would wish anyone to have write any example of a destructor. Just Google or go online and try to write a single constructor and a single destructor to demonstrate some differences between a constructor and destructor. Otherwise, have a blessed evening until we meet next class.